In this video, I'll walk you through how to close a higher percentage of deals and how to close more deals overall. So this is my masterclass on selling high ticket credit coaching. So in this training, I'll go over the sales fundamentals that you need to know, how to run an effective sales conversation, and how to overcome the most common sales objections. So let's start with the fundamentals. So what do your prospects really buy? What do they care about? Well, in reality, they don't actually buy your offer. They're not buying your credit repair service or your funding or the personality that you have on social media. Your prospects are buying a transformation on a logical and emotional level. Based on logic, they're buying these physical, tangible results. So how much income will they make? How many more clients will they have? How much more time back will they be able to use? On the emotional level, how will it make them feel? So will they have more enjoyment, more peace, more freedom, more free time with their family, more fulfillment in their business? So right now, your prospects are currently struggling in their situation and hoping to achieve their desired situation. So your prospects will buy your credit or funding service if your offer provides the path of least resistance from their current struggle situation to the desired dream outcome. And this is the mistake that most people in our space make, thinking that we need to focus our marketing on how the letters work or what kind of a sequence we have for funding, but your prospects don't really care about that. They are leveraging the credit repair to perhaps buy their house. That's the dream outcome. They might be qualifying for funding to launch a new business. So now they have that freedom and fulfillment. That's what they care about. That's how we need to position what we do. So the goal here is to build a bridge. We need to clearly define the current state and their desired state. So what do they want to be making income-wise? What type of new business do they want to run? What does financial freedom mean to them? Then we'll paint the picture. So what is it exactly? So what new house do you want? If you fix your credit, what does it look like? Where is it located? Who's going to live there? How much money do they want to make? And what will they do with that income? So are they able to travel more? Are they able to now hire like a maid or a cook so they can actually get some time back and eat better food? They don't want to eat out more, right? So we want to get them excited. Next, we want to create the gap. So why don't they have it yet? What's holding them back? What are the obstacles? How much time and effort have they already sacrificed? So here we want to get them somewhat frustrated, and then we build the bridge. So right now we have the dream outcome on the other side, but right now we're at this side of the bank on the river. And so now we need to create that bridge to help them get there. So we need to become the solution that will help them overcome current problems and reach the dream destination the easiest and the fastest way possible. So we turn them into optimism. All right. So during the call, we have two main jobs. Number one is to understand if and how we can actually help this person. And number two is to eliminate objections before the close so we can empower them to make a decision to work with us now. So how do we actually do this? Well, there are 7 main decision-making beliefs. There are 7 reasons your prospect is buying your product. So there are also the 7 reasons they may not buy your product. So we need to overcome every objection here. So there's a pain belief, doubt, cost, desire, trust, and also support and money. So let's break these all down here. So for pain, your prospect must believe they have a problem that's keeping them from achieving their dream outcome. So they may not actually know what those problems are, but if they don't actually feel the pain and the struggle right now, they're not going to care enough to actually pay you this high-ticket program to solve the problem. Doubt. Your prospect must believe they cannot fix this problem on their own, or that attempting to do so would waste unnecessary time, money, given the options available to them. That's really the big part of the information and coaching space that we're in, right? We're helping people achieve certain things, and they're basically buying time. Right? A lot of what we do could potentially be figured out just by going on YouTube University or Googling everything, but people don't want to make mistakes. They want to get to their dream outcome a lot faster, and so that's what we do. Next is cost. So your prospect must believe that doing nothing is far more painful and going to lose more money than the investment in time and money to fix it. You must ask questions to figure out what would affect them if they don't buy. So basically, this creates urgency and eliminates the time-based objection. Right now, we're not selling a cost, a program. We're selling an investment, an opportunity to take whatever money our program costs, but turn it into hopefully 10x more in value. So if someone's paying you, let's say $8,000 for funding, but you help them qualify for $100,000, well, that's 12 times more available capital, right? Desire. Your prospect must believe that solving the problem will yield a better future, logically and emotionally, that we talked about, compared to the one they have right now. So if your prospect doesn't have a strong enough association to where they're going, there will be too much fear. They're going to be too complacent. There's not enough of that passion going into it. So again, we're selling high ticket. We need to get them excited about actually moving towards that. Trust. Your prospect must believe in their own ability to achieve the desired outcome with the right help. Your prospect must believe that your solution is the easiest, fastest, and requires the least amount of effort, so it's the best one. Your prospect must believe that you or your company will follow through on what's promised. So basically, they need to trust themselves, right? Some people, believe it or not, have limiting beliefs that it just might not be possible for me. So we need to break that down during the call. They might believe or we need them to believe that we have a great program, okay? So we're charging high ticket because we make it easier, faster, and less effort on their part. Again, buying time, buying implementation, and they need to trust us. So how do we do that? Well, having a really good funnel that builds that know, like, and trust before hopping on a call, but also being relatable on the call, which we could talk about during this training. Next is support. Your prospect must believe that their spouse or partner will support them in fixing the problem if necessary. You need to know if your prospect requires a buy-in from their partner early on. This is not something that we can do at the very end. We need to understand exactly who's involved with this decision-making process before pitching the deal. So we need them to have confidence in their support circle. And finally here, we need them to believe that they have the resources and willingness to solve the problem. This is the last belief, because if the other ones align, they will find a way. If they don't have the willingness to move forward, then the value just isn't high enough. So there's a famous, example that a lot of people talk about with the Lamborghini. If I came to you today with a brand new Lamborghini, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It drives fast, it drives well, it turns necks or whatever, turns heads, and it's in perfect condition, but I offered to you for $10,000, but you're dead broke. Well, how much of an effort would you put into actually finding that money, right? You're going to reach out to family, to friends, people you used to work with, right, to find that $10,000 because you know that this Lambo is worth maybe over $200,000, right? So it's really, in most cases, not a resource problem, it's a resourcefulness problem. So you need to be resourceful and finding a way to do that. But we're also in the credit and funding space. Our job is to help people with financing, so you might have to get creative as well. So we'll talk about that later on. So this is basically what we need to break down. And so what do you need on your side? Well, number one, you need certainty. Your certainty in your offer will determine how you speak and what you say. You need to be 100% convinced that what you're saying is absolutely true. If you don't, your prospect will notice that. So it's not just a fake pumped up confidence. You're just hyping yourself up before the call, right? That's good for having a good workout, but you need resolve. It's a complete comfort and confidence that what you're doing is the right thing, that you will deliver on the promised offer that you have, and this will really transmutate through your sales conversation. So that's why you need to have really good data points, a really good client system on the back end, and everything put together so you know that if someone comes in, you will get them really good results. Number two is inner alignment. Do you feel personally aligned with your offer? Are you living the transformation that aligns with what you do? Do you get excited about the desired outcome? Have you fixed your own credit? Did you get yourself funding? Have you helped others? How did it change your life or their life, right? That's just going to basically, again, project outwards if you're living this offer. This is why the owner of the company can sell so much more effectively on their own offer than a seasoned sales veteran, is because, again, you've done this yourself and now you're helping people achieve the same outcome. And then the last one is authentic leadership. So you must approach the prospect as a trusted advisor. You are the resource they need to answer their questions and provide the solution they're looking for. You're either committed to serving your prospect powerfully to the best of your ability, or you're simply attached to the outcome of the payment, right? We need to be a leader. Help them see their situation by asking the right questions, and have the courage to take a stand and become the voice in their head so they can empower themselves to take action. So this is very important here as to what we need on our side is certainty, inner alignment, and authentic leadership. So some common mistakes here that I see people make is, number one, being the sales guy versus the leader. So the sales guy only thinks and operates from me first. He puts his interest above the prospect and prioritizes the sale. And the prospect can see this. All we're trying to do is just close a deal, right? Instead, a leader leads with service and operates that way. So he puts the prospect's interest first. He tries to understand them. What's their situation? What have they tried? What are they going through? And what do they actually want? And if that aligns with what we do, then we can create a solution to help them. The prospect can really feel a conversation that's a little bit more scripted and just getting them from point A to the sale versus actually trying to understand what they need and how we can help them. So the prospect can feel this. Also, pressure versus motivation. So external pressure is when the sales guy depends on deadlines, buy now or the price goes up, right? Discounts, if you have different bonuses or certain pressure tactics to get them to buy during the sales call. Instead, you can use internal motivation. It's very powerful if you use this. If you have a sales conversation, really digging into their pain and getting them excited about the future, you don't even need deadlines, discounts, bonuses, guarantees. The prospect gets excited about working with you. So tips, before the call, get better at snapping into action. Analyze your state before the call. Hype yourself up with music or affirmations to show up with confidence. Spend time researching your prospect as well. Look at their application. Learn about them on social media. It helps so much when you show up and it just sounds like you've actually prepared for the call, and they're going to really appreciate that. It's going to look a lot more professional. Mirror and cadence. So match the cadence of your prospect. This establishes rapport. If you notice the prospect is speaking more slowly, slow down your cadence. If there's someone that's a little bit more calm and collected and he prefers to kind of keep it mellow, right, you have to also do that as well. But if this person's really excited, he speaks fast, right, he's from South Florida, then you got to also hype yourself up, okay? Do not interrupt them unless your prospect is rambling on and going off topic. If you're trying to gather information as far as, what have they been dealing with, what's the struggle, sometimes a ramble can be good because you're going to get more information and really dig into what you need to talk about their goals and all that. But if we're really just talking about sports or their next trip, that's not actually helpful for what we're doing. They should be talking a lot more than you. Okay, so then state management, I kind of just went over this, but your state will determine the outcome of your sales conversation. A bad state kills deals. A great one closes deals. So before hopping on a sales call, can you ask yourself, am I ready to crush it and transform lives? You need to be able to really snap into it and show up powerfully. Because if you're having a bad day and something happened this morning and now you have a sales call, you're not going to have the energy you need to really deliver. So in some cases, you have to train yourself to know when to snap out of it and when to really get ready for your energy to best deliver during the call. All right, so a couple other items here as well. So what notes can do for you. So if you're really experienced, you might not need notes as much, but as you start to get kind of ramped up, they can be pretty helpful because they allow you to stay focused on the conversation, helps you see clearly what's important to your prospect so you can tailor your pitch because you have the notes. You can write these down on paper or iPad to eliminate the sound of typing. You should have certain columns and checkboxes on your list because now you'll know what to ask and what to look for. You can designate a spot for major pain points, and you can highlight the why now. So I have like a little example here of what your notes might look like. Okay, so lead, pain point, and some of these main items that we need. Okay, so why now, their goal, solution, etc. Okay, so these are all good ideas. If you're more advanced, I kind of do this in my head. I'm just kind of checking off boxes, knowing what I should be looking for and what I should be asking. But if you're getting started, it's very helpful to kind of practice with some kind of sheet like this as you develop your skills. All right, so that's everything for the fundamentals. So now let's get into actually running the sales call. So we're going to go over the introduction, the discovery, the transition, the offer, closing, and objections. So let's start with the introduction here. So building rapport. All we care about here is just being a normal person, okay? We don't want to sound like it's like super scripted, super fake. We're just trying to close a deal, right? Just be a normal person. Don't be the salesman. Don't try to empower them or make them feel superior, okay? We just want to make it chill, really. We're just having a conversation. It's just like sitting down at a cocktail party, just talking to someone, understanding where they're at and seeing if we can help them. Ensure the prospect's in a good time and place. Super important. If I hop on a call and this person's in a loud cafe, if he's walking around on the phone, if he's in his car, right? These are all places that are going to be distracting. They're not going to have the perfect internet connection, and and they're probably not going to have access to their credit card because right now we want them to buy. Okay, so if this is the case, I'll, talk shop really quickly to just kind of build that quick rapport. But otherwise, I am going to ask them to reschedule because I want them to stay focused. I want them to have a good internet connection so we can make the most out of their time. So whenever I hop on a call and I see someone that's in their car, even if they're parked, I'll ask them if there's a better time for them that we can sit down on their computer to really make the most out of their time and be better for connection and just more focused. So I do that whenever that happens. And so we can also ask them to take some notes to make sure they're focused and keep both of you engaged. We talked about rambling a little bit. So if it's about their problems or about their goals, it can be good. But if it's about basically anything else like the weather, sports, or whatever, it does not matter. Okay, this is not a date. We're talking about business right now. We're trying to figure out what we can do to help them. And then lastly is to research beforehand. So we talked about this. Demonstrate that you've actually invested time and energy before actually hopping on the call. And this really helps a lot because it makes them sound more than just a number on your KPI sheet. You're actually trying to help them. Okay, so that's a quick rapport, but we're not trying to, go into where they're from, their family too much. All right, like typically my rapport building kind of happens during the call. So I'm just going to very quickly ask them, hey, welcome for coming on. Okay, I'll give you actually like an example here in a second, but we're not trying to go too deep into things that don't matter. And then right away, we hop on the call, we're polite, but we're going to set the frame. So your prospect's agenda is to gather more information. Your agenda is to lead them through that transformation and to make a decision. So you lose leadership in the process when you disclose too much too early. This limits your ability to close at the end or facilitate payment plans. So if someone hops on the call and he's like, okay, look, what's the price? What do you do? You haven't even gone over the value. We haven't broken down the 7 beliefs that they need to actually see how much we can help and how more transformational this will be than just the cost involved. So if someone shows up that way, then we basically lose all power in the conversation. So we really need to basically frame it correctly. And the frame is that we are here to help them, but better understand the situation so we can point them in the right direction and see if we're a right fit for each other. We're going to be clear that this is a sales call. We're both here to learn and that we are talking about next steps, about joining. And we're also going to frame it the correct way because it allows us to be the leader in the conversation, okay? Because if you don't have the frame, then you're not going to get the sale. All right, so this is a sample introduction here to kind of show you how I typically start these calls. So, hey, is this John? Hey, John, Alec here. How you doing today? Okay, great. So I noticed you downloaded my free guide. Was that helpful for you? Awesome. Happy to hear that. So to be respectful of your time, are you cool with us diving right in? All right, great. So yeah, during the call here, I'd like to learn more about you, what your goals are, what your situation is, and see if we can honestly help. And if that's the case, we can talk about what working together might look like and next steps. Sound good? Great. So John, I see you're wanting to get funding for your real estate business. So what you've been up to there, what's the funding for? And also, if you don't mind me asking, what's kind of slowing you down at the moment? Why haven't you gotten the funding you need? So to break it down here, we can see that I'm leveraging authority right off the bat because this person booked a call. He became a lead because he downloaded one of my free guides. So now I'm leveraging authority by basically pinpointing the fact that he's consuming my stuff. Okay, it's just kind of how I build the rapport is that, we're talking about how they've been benefiting from my stuff, basically. So we're not even talking about anything else, right? We're just diving right in. And then to be respectful of your time, let's transition in. Here, I'm setting that frame that we are here to understand more about them, to see if we can help. And if that's the case, about working together, and between the lines saying that asking about payment today. Okay, so we're setting the frame. It's very, very important to do this. And then finally, we're going to dive right in by mentioning whatever research we've done by looking at their application form and also asking them the specific questions that we're looking for. Okay, so in the intro, try to demonstrate that you researched them or paid attention. Avoid general, tell me more about you. Understand that some of your buyers will be more sophisticated than others and that some have had plenty of sales calls already. So that's why we want to be kind of, snappy, right into it. It just sounds fake if someone's like, oh, all right, well, where are you calling from? How's the weather over there, right? We know what we're doing here, so there's just really no point in it. All right, so that's going to help you set the frame, control the conversation, and set the right intention here. So that's the initial rapport building right there. So next we're going to dive into discovery. So now we open up the floor to allow them to talk. So we need to determine the problems that they have. So what's holding them back, and how can we position ourselves to be the easiest and fastest way to solve them. So that's why we do discovery. We want to understand what are the roadblocks that we need to be able to solve with our program so that we can tailor the entire offer for this particular person. We might be running basically the exact same sequence for all of our clients, introducing them to the same bankers, but by having an understanding of where they're starting, now we can basically make it sound super personalized and super relevant to what they need. The other one is identifying the goal. Okay, so again, the prospect is not buying credit repair. They're not buying funding. They're buying the dream destination. It's just like an airline. Whenever they run an ad or a commercial, they're not talking about how much leg room you have or how large their seats are. They're talking and showing you the tropical destination of sitting on the beach with a pina colada, right? That's the goals that we're looking for. It's not how much funding you want. It's what does the funding represent for you. So once we understand that, we need to go into information gathering. So we're going to first understand the current status. So the background questions, this is kind of those logical. Okay, so how much funding do you need? What's the funding for? How will this help your business? Will this be a game changer? And how much more money could you make, right? Like, what are the tangible things? Are you going to grow your team? Are you going to increase your ad spend? Are you going to make so much more money? Okay, are you going to do more real estate flips? Whatever it is. So now that we understand that, we'll dive in deeper into the emotions. So how would this change your life? Are you trying to get more free time, some more free time back? Are you hoping to achieve financial freedom? What does that mean for you? Are you trying to travel more, right? Like, how is it going to feel for them? The emotions. And finally, what are the problems? What are the roadblocks? What's holding them back? So is it because you have bad credit? Is it because you have a high risk LLC? Do you need banker contacts? How did you apply, right? So showing them that you understand them and you know the questions to ask because you're a professional. Number two is identifying the time frame. So how long has this been going on? So some problems could have started a few weeks ago and others could have been going on for years. We want them to feel this, that we're going to dive into or dig into that pain a little bit, because if it's going on for years and they're making a decision now, like, we can't stay on the same track. So we need them to feel this right here. Next is helping them see the impact. So how this had an impact on you, on your business, on your family, on your health, your stress. This is going to be a little bit more personal, okay? So that's why we need to still present ourselves as a leader, right? We're asking questions, we're being thoughtful, we're using pausing, we're going to mirror how they kind of speak in the same speed and the same energy so that they can feel confident talking to us this way. What's the worst part about this? Really lean on this. So right now we're really digging into their pain. Okay, so how long has this been going on? How has this affected you, right? We need to establish doubt they can't do it on their own. Like, what's stopped you so far from just doing this on your own, right? We need them to believe that they can't. Understand the urgency. So you need your prospect to understand why this is urgent for them. This eliminates them wanting to think about it or push this off, right? We're trying to empower them to know that, look, this has been going on for a while. You know you can't solve it on your own, right? And you need this done because there are certain things in your life that you need to change, right? You want to buy a new house, you have a new kid coming along, so we need this, right? And sometimes the timing might not be a good fit right now, and that's totally fine, but we don't want this to be an excuse. This needs to be like an actual logistics problem. So if they're going through a current real estate flip and all their cash is tied up in that transaction, well, that's going to be a real problem. Or if they're currently moving right now and they have a lot going on in their life and finances are tied up, or if they just got a divorce, they just got a kid, right? So these are all logical, real reasons that they might not be able to start now. And so if that's the case, it's all good, right? We're not trying to be the sales guy. We're trying to be the leader. And so in that case, we can simply just put them in our pipeline, right? If you have a really good pipeline like we do, you just basically click a button and it puts them in an automated follow-up sequence, so then they can book a call when the time is right. And if this is the case and timing isn't good, I'll honestly probably just go through the program a little bit, but I'm going to make the call a lot shorter and just kind of wrap it up so that when the time is right, we can focus on like the details. So I'm probably not going to talk about how much the program costs and what everything's involved. I'll just save that for that actual conversation, because I want to be able to leverage all the different pain points, the emotions. I want to be able to dive into this so he feels everything during the call, so that when I present the price, it's not about the cost, it's more about the transformation. So we need to understand that. We need to understand the past attempts to solve this. So what have you tried in the past to fix this? How was your experience? Have you worked with other coaches, other programs, mentors? What else have you tried? And so if they have and they did not get the results they wanted, it's usually one of three reasons. So number one, bad information, super relevant in our space, right? Credit repair changes a lot. Business funding data points change a lot. So maybe their last coach just didn't have the right information, so that's why it didn't work. Otherwise, maybe the information was good, but the coach did not provide the right support, or implementation wasn't great. Or finally, if the information was good, the support was good, but they did not show up, they didn't actually follow up, they didn't get engaged, they need to know that. So we need to understand what went wrong with the last program, and we need them to explain why it went wrong. And so that will allow us to know how do we present our offer as something different. Next, we have the question of whether there are other decision makers. So again, very important. We don't want them to have that as an easy out when it comes time to making a decision about working with us. So if they do decide to work together, is there anyone else that would play a part in that decision? Spouse, partner, business partner? If so, do they need to be on the call? If that's the case, let's reschedule so all of us are here. Okay, so this eliminates the objection of let me talk it over with. If you don't, that'll be an easy out for them when it comes time to making a decision. And lastly, help them see the future. So again, painting that dream outcome, getting them excited about it. So if we decide to work together and help you with your funding, your credit repairs, and ultimately, what's the goal here? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to start a new business? Do you want to scale a business? You want to grow a team, get your time back, that fulfillment, all those questions, okay? Why is this important? What do you want your business and life to look like in 6 months? All right, so that's basically how we do the discovery. So now that we have that, now we're going to start to transition into actually talking about what we do. So very quickly, sometimes a prospect will hop on the phone and ask you what the cost is. Like I said, we never do this because if they talk about the price, what we sell is not a cost, it's an investment. We're trying to help people reach this transformation through what we do by accelerating time, by limiting problems and roadblocks, by providing solutions and implementation. So it's not just a cost. If someone comes on the sales call just looking for that number, they're not going to have all the different 7 beliefs that we need that have been addressed for them to actually make an educated decision. So if this is the case, I'm simply going to tell them that we're probably not a good fit for each other and hop off. I've done this multiple times where I hop on a call, someone's like, look, just tell me the price, what do you do, etc. He doesn't even know maybe who I am. It happens rarely now because we have a very good social funnel. If someone hops on the call, we've like warmed them up with content. There's steps for them to even get to that stage. So it's very, very rare for us to have that. But if that's the case, I already know we're not going to close the deal because again, we don't have that know, like, and trust. We haven't raised the 7 beliefs during the call and he's trying to jump right to that question. So I would say the chances of closing them are probably less than 5%. It's just a waste of time, waste of energy. It's going to lower anyone's confidence if they're hopping on calls like this. If you hop on a bunch of sales calls with people that are shopping around, you're going to start to hop on sales calls not really believing in your inability to close the deal. So instead, if these people hop on a call, we need to politely basically just wrap it up and tell them it's not the right fit. That's literally what I do. I'll say, hey, you know what? It's probably not the right time. If you're not really sure with what we do or how we can help you, then I'd probably recommend checking out my YouTube channel. That will give you a lot more information and hopefully give you a lot of value. And then in the future, if you are interested in working with us, you can book another call once you know a little bit more. And if they still keep pushing for it, I just know it's going to be a hard client. I just literally wrap it up. Okay, I've had people literally get really pissed on a sales call because they're like, oh, you're missing on a sale. You're missing out on all this money. I've had some people literally cuss me out on the phone, believe it or not. I don't know why, but I just knew it was not a right fit. I told them, look, you're not a right fit for us. So that's simply it. But if they're asking this, and they probably are one of those shopping around prospects, it will be difficult clients. I've worked with difficult clients, and I try to optimize to not have that happen. So best to avoid, here's how to handle it. So I want to know the price of your offer. Well, good question. Everything I do here is, however, customized. So the journey looks different for every person coming through. I can't give you an accurate cost until I get to know you and your situation better. So does that make sense? They'll usually think, well, it probably does make sense. All right, cool. So can you tell me more about you? What inspired you to book this call today? Okay, so that's one way to do it. Just tell me what you do. So it's, again, not very normal unless this person's really shopping around, hopping on a bunch of sales calls, and they basically know the gist of what credit or funding looks like. If they have no idea about you, then there's really no point to even run the sales conversation. We're not doing cold calling. We're not trying to cold DM people, at least not with my funnel that we use. And so the people that hop on a call, They already know, like, and trust us. They've already built up the different beliefs in some ways before even hopping on the call. And so if we haven't been able to do that, there's literally a very, very slim chance of closing the deal anyways. So we just don't waste our time or energy on this. Okay, so tell you what, I want to be respectful of your time as possible. So how about I send you some information about what I do? So if you see anything that resonates with you, then we can hop back on a call and go over specifics. Is that good? Again, I send socials and maybe the VSL video. So that's during the call. If they're rambling, you can allow them to do this if they're going over, again, the pain points or the desires. But if they're not going over anything relevant or on the main topic, we're going to basically very quickly try to steer it back on. So, hey, let me pause you for a second. Do you mind if I just cut in really quick? So one thing you said that really stood out to me, something actually relevant, and what I'm really curious about is, then you continue that way. Okay, so we get them back on track. What if they're closed off? So during the conversation, what if it's going pretty well, but all of a sudden they're starting to get a little bit more reserved or something? They're giving you less open questions or starting to talk a little bit less. So either they have a bad association with sales calls or something may have happened in the conversation that caused them to lose trust in you or get upset. So you need to find a way to reconnect with them and get back on track. But honestly, it should be very rare if you make it about them. When I used to first start selling my own funding business a couple years ago, I'd hop on these sales calls and I had a very long scripted pitch. So I'd be talking about what I do and my offer and how we help for like 5 minutes, which might seem short to you, but it's actually very long. And so during that 5 minutes, they just totally disconnected. And so then I have to like bring them back in, try to bring them back in after that. But if you make the whole call about them, about their problems, about their goals, this really shouldn't happen because people love to talk about themselves, right? So if you're talking about their life, about their business, about what they're trying to accomplish, that's usually a pretty fun conversation for most people. So there's no reason that you should lose them and they should be getting closed off, okay? We seem to know that it's not about you. It's not about your business, about your offer. It's about their transformation. So you can also offer to hop on a call at another time if it's really a bad time for them. So again, something happens, if they get a bad text message, if they get a phone call, if someone even before hopping on the call at the very beginning, they tell you something like, I just had someone recently that said that their daughter got in a car accident that morning. Thankfully, she was okay. She just got like a little fender bender. And I knew that he'd not be in the right frame to have a good call. So I just asked him to reschedule, right? So we seem to be in a good spot. All right, so that's kind of like the transition right there if anything happens during the conversation. But now we can go into the offer, okay? So at this point, we've established rapport. We've built and set the frame of the conversation that we're here to talk about our program, about what they need and how we can help. And then we went over discovery, so understanding where they're at right now, their current problems, why are they here, how long has it been going on, and where are they trying to go. And now we'll go over the actual pitch, okay? Presenting your offer. So there's two different ways to do this, right? We have a transformation pitch or an amateur pitch. So we need to give a clear and specific result that gives your prospect full certainty. So an amateur pitch will sound something like this. I hope you fix your credit and qualify for the funding you need, right? It's very vague. Anyone can do this. A transformation pitch instead will say, I hope you increase your score by 80 points and qualify for over $100,000 of funding in 3 months. Okay, so it's very specific. We got some data points. It sounds tangible. So that's a much better pitch. So we need to avoid coming across as scripted. Many sales guys simply read off the script and it sounds fake. Okay, so to avoid this, work and practice and memorize how you present your offer. This is the most important part in some cases of your sales and how you make money. So we need to practice presenting what we do, practice overcoming objections. It needs to sound like second nature, okay? So we do not want to make the pitch sound too complex. Instead, keep it very short, very simple, very concise, okay? And also, we want to make it personalized. So like my pitch is going to be less than a minute. Okay, it's very simple, very clear. I've been talking about what we do all throughout the conversation a little bit. So now when it comes to like the actual offer itself, we've talked about them so much and we painted the picture of where they are and where we're trying to go that we just have to basically kind of put a bow on it. So how do we actually craft this? Well, we have that transformation, okay? So after listening to your prospect in discovery, you'll create a very clear and specific offer to help them, okay? So at most, 1 to 2 minutes. At this point, you want your prospect to understand the goal before you dive into it and give them a specific outcome and a specific time frame. So we'll help you qualify for $150K of funding in 60 days with the dream outcome of hiring 2 team members so you can scale to $30,000 a month. Okay, so again, they don't want the credit, they don't want the funding, they want the actual result that what we do will help them achieve. So that's like the overall, okay, how we start it. But now once we actually just introduce how it works, we'll talk about the path and the delivery itself. So the first part here is, here's the end goal. Now the path. So we're going to start with why most people cannot actually solve the problem on their own. We're going to talk about the path and what this looks like. So depending on what they actually need, what are the roadblocks? So if they need to fix their credit, we'll talk about that. If they need to get a low-risk business entity, we'll talk about that. If they live in a certain state like Florida, we'll talk about some of the main banks that we like to use. Okay, so describe what their path will look like working together, a clear path from point A to point B, the more certainty they'll have. We want to introduce a specific formula. So basically for every main pillar, right? If we're talking about credit repair, if we're talking about low-risk entity, maybe the funding, I like to give them like a special, fun, memorable name. So for perfect credit, I call it the Cinderella profile, right? It's just funny, it's memorable. Okay, so if we're talking about a funding sequence, it might be the fast funding formula. Okay, so we want to give it a memorable name. Just sounds more put together. Then finally, help them understand what they've done in the past, why has failed, and why this is different. It gives you more authority. So now we're talking about the path. So here's the overall goal. Here's how it works as far as like what's the journey going to look like, and now how do we deliver? So how does it actually come together? How do they receive this program? So now that we've talked to them about how it's going to work and why, we'll explain with more clarity all the different steps. So again, we have the 2 to 3 pillars. We're going to break them down and basically explain that this might be, they might have group coaching calls, there might be one-on-one factors, there might be done for you elements. Okay, so now we're going to really describe a little bit more in detail how the delivery actually works. So the traits of the powerful pitch, explain an example of another client that had a similar struggle to your prospect. So maybe it can help me too. If we're talking about one of the main pillars, like the Cinderella profile, you can describe a client that had pretty bad credit and you help them fix it up. If you had a client that was also in a high-risk industry and they were getting denied for funding because they do real estate wholesaling, you help them set up a low-risk entity and get a bunch of funding. Okay, so client examples are always good, even your own examples. Give them a clear and specific result that they will see should they work with you in a clear time frame. So we talked about that. Give them a clear step-by-step process that will take them through their end results on the 2 to 3 main pillars they need. So how do you start, the next steps, etc. And explain why the process works. So go over each pillar, why it's effective, and why it's different from everything else out there. Okay, so that's how we present it. So we're going to have the overall transformation presentation. We're going to break down into the 2 to 3 clear steps of how we're going to get there. And then we'll talk about the delivery, so what's all included. All right, so again, this is at most 1 or 2 minutes right here. And now the closing, okay? So at this point, we've gone over, again, the rapport, we've understood what they need, we've tailored our pitch and how we present the offer. Now we're going to start to talk about price and next steps. So before we actually discuss the price, you need to grasp how they feel about your offer. Ask them if this is what they were looking for, and ask if the price made sense that they would sign up today. Super important. Because once you start to present your offer, you can now start to ask if they have more questions. And if they ask about your price, as I'm kind of getting ready to present it, I'll ask them, so this is what you were kind of looking for when you hopped on the call. If the price really made sense, like, would you actually want to get started today? So basically now we're, again, kind of anchoring them in. We're digging our feet in the sand right now so that we make sure that once we present the price, it's a now decision. So if they're not giving you good answers, ask the prospect why that is, okay? So if they're not exactly 100% sure, they don't sound confident about this is a program that I was looking for, well, now we need to overcome the objections before actually presenting the price. Very, very important, because if we do this before, now it just becomes a yes kind of decision. But if they have objections, they have like some cop-out methods, okay? Because I guess if we present the price after, it's a yes or no, simple, okay, that's it. But if they have different objections they haven't addressed, well, now they can get an out, decide later by saying that they need to talk to their spouse because they had different logistical things that they're dealing with, right? We need to understand exactly where they're at and how they feel about it before presenting the price, because now addressing the final objections, it's really not about the actual program itself. It might just be about limiting beliefs. If a prospect asks you a question at this point, We need to make sure why they're asking it, because this will better equip us to give an honest answer about the decision that they're looking for. So, for example, if they may have a poor opinion about group calls because they've had a bad experience in the past, we want to know why exactly they don't like group calls so we know how to better answer. Okay, so they'll tell us how to answer basically. And once you go over every question, keep asking, okay, do you have more questions, until they just say, okay, look, I'm just looking for the price basically. Okay? You don't want them to have big concerns because that will scare them if they hear about the actual costs. So now, next steps, okay? So once we've kind of gone over all the different questions, we can also increase the certainty about our product if we go over all the next steps. So once they submit the payment, what can they expect? So what are the onboarding look like? What are the first immediate goals and wins that we're looking for? And what, again, is the final destination? We do this to have a clear understanding, so they have a clear understanding of the process and what they will experience that day. Again, more understanding, more comfortable, more confidence. And then now, at this point, we'll talk about the investment. Okay, so start by asking if there are any questions on the next steps. You keep asking more questions until they have no more questions. Only get into price when they ask about it at this stage. We don't present the price until they ask about it. Then first, restate what they want, break down all the value points, and drop the investment cost prevented in an actual contract. So I'm always going to present it visually. It just sounds so much more tangible, so much more real versus just talking to them on a call and telling them, okay, it's $8,000. Okay, instead, once they ask about the price, we're sure they have no more questions. It's just about the actual starting. Well, at this point now, I'm going to bring up a little sales contract. I'm going to break down inside of the contract all the bullet point values. So I might start with, okay, here's the dream outcome. And then I'm going to have the different deliverables. So you're going to get access to the curriculum. You'll have access to weekly group coaching calls. You'll have one-on-one Slack support. You'll have my banker contacts. We'll customize your funding sequence, right? So I'm going to break everything down to, again, increase and project just how much value it is so that there's a big multiplier on how much value they get compared to what the cost will be when we present it in a second. So they get so much value compared to the price, okay? So for example, or here, frame has a huge value compared to the cost, okay? So I'm gonna show them like the actual paper document. Here's all the bullet points. And then on the contract, I'm gonna scroll down and show them the actual cost, okay? So any questions on next steps, cool. So the investment helping you qualify for 150K so you can grow a business to 30K a month is only $8,000, okay? Then you wait, you don't say anything, you give them time to process, all right? But if you do this correctly, you shouldn't have too many objections because now they can see that there's so much value inside. They're seeing it so they can read it, and they see the price itself black on white, so it's very clear and very understandable. Okay, so then we have like objection handling. So at this point, once you presented the price, hopefully there's not too many objections. They can just get right into it. But in a lot of cases, objections are just normal, just part of sales. If there weren't objections, it wouldn't be called sales. It would just be called collecting cash, right? So objections are simply limiting beliefs your prospect has about themselves or your product. It could be insecurities about money, for example, like they're irresponsible with credit, or they've made mistakes in the past and they've wasted money. If this is the case, you can ask questions to reframe their insecurities, just like, is it financially responsible to stay in the position that you're at right now? But why do we really get objections? It's one of four reasons. So number one, the logistics or timing is off. So they could be moving shortly. They need to make payroll. If they're having a new kid soon, right? The objection is logistics. You need to make sure there's nothing else holding them back because this could be a smoke screen in some cases. But if it's a real one, all we do is just put them in the pipeline and follow back up with them later. If they do want to work with you, but they really just don't have money and they're not resourceful enough to find money, if it's someone that's got horrible credit and all of his cards are maxed out and he's got no savings in the bank, then in some cases we really just can't help some people, right? The prospect could be less than 100% confident about your product or about you, so they give you a fake reason, or they lack support from a partner or inability to make a decision without them, so that's why we should have asked about that earlier. But typically, we see objections if they're not 100% in confidence with you, your business, or your offer. So if you try to cover all the 7 belief points earlier and personalize your pitch for them, you shouldn't really get many objections, if any at all, okay? But how do we actually handle objections? Well, it's important to remain grounded, centered, calm and collected. We want to be on our feet, quick on our feet, okay? Because if they have objections, it does not mean that we lost a sale. We just have to address any fast or any last points that they might have about what we do, okay? But arguing or giving a direct rebuttal will not only push your prospect away, but you're going to lose a deal, okay? We want to ask deeper questions as to why they're thinking that and why this is the case. Don't get defensive or anxious, okay? So if someone says that this just costs too much, don't just start to be defensive like, oh, it's actually not that much money, right? We're going to ask them why. Why that's the case? Why do they believe that? Your prospect could just be afraid after hearing the cost, but you should be reminding them about what you're going to help them accomplish, what's the dream outcome, and we need to hold them accountable, okay? But here are going to be some extra tips here. So first, handle uncertainty. Your prospect will tell you anything to avoid confrontation. So if it's important, you need to know the real reason holding them back. Ask them, money aside, do you feel good about this? Do you still feel 100%? If uncertain, remind them what they just said a minute ago, okay? Didn't seem like that. In transparency, what's the biggest factor kind of worrying you about this program? If you need to dig deeper, that's fine. Can I ask you an honest question? Anytime someone feels less than 100% about this, it's typically one of three things. So you're not 100% sure about this process, you don't trust me or the company, or you're not 100% confident that it'll work for you, or you are confident it'll work for you and you trust me, but it's simply a matter of finances. So sometimes giving them the option will make them more comfortable to share with you their true concerns. If they are certain but money is a problem, well, if it's something you really want to do, it's important for you, you can walk you through your current financial situation. But this is a great question because if they simply have a money problem about getting started, well, you're probably a funding coach. That's what you do. We need to help them basically find a way to get started. If we can collect any kind of cash now, they're at least invested and we can start to get the ball rolling. So we can try to ask some questions about what do their current finances kind of look like so we can tailor it and we can try to find solutions. So do you have available credit on your credit cards? Do you have good credit so we can apply for a personal loan? Are you expecting to make some money in your business pretty soon? But ideally, you don't want to give them a payment plan without understanding their financial situation. Ask them their financial position so you can build a custom plan for them. So is that going to be a split payment, a monthly payment, a weekly payment plan, or a deposit, for example? So you could say something like, I typically take the payment up front, but I don't want to put you in a difficult situation. So can you give me your current financial situation so I can help build a custom plan for you? Another great way to frame it that I like to use a lot is if a payment plan is easier for you, what would you be able to start with today? So it's not a yes or no question anymore. It's about how much are you willing to start with? So sometimes, in some cases, asking this question allows you to actually collect more cash up front because they might offer to pay more than what you were planning to offer them for a payment plan. But reaffirm their buy-in after they give you their finances. So for example, if I build this custom plan for you, are you sure you're 100% ready to commit? Partner objections. So you need to know if there's a partner involved in the decision before, during discovery. So if they tell you that they are the sole decision maker and they tell you later on they need to talk to their partner, well, this is often a scapegoat, right? They're having some kind of limiting beliefs they aren't comfortable sharing with you. So if they told you that they are the sole decision maker, then remind them, right? Allowing them to talk to their partner about your offer is usually a deal killer because they're not going to give them all the details that you're able to. They're probably going to botch some of the information, and so their partner is probably not going to be as excited as they are about actually joining the program and helping them because we've also not addressed the 7 beliefs to their partner either, so they're not going to feel as emotionally invested either. So if they really want to do this, but they're concerned about their partner's thoughts, walk them through what it would look like if they presented it to them. The idea is to help them see that they could do not as good of a job as us as to presenting it. And so you need to all be on the call together. So if they didn't admit to it earlier, but they really, really need to, ask them if we could all just hop on a call together so that you could actually present it correctly. And then you can also ask them about their partner's perspective. So if you were to make a decision and invest in this program, do you think they would be supportive? Why do you think they might be afraid? Are they encouraging you to make a change and transform your life? Like, why would they actually be so against you making a decision to do that? And then reframing uncertainty. So we got a lot of different objection handling things here, okay? So the next one is I need to think about it. So just curious, is this typically how you make decisions? Can I be real with you here? I've worked with enough successful clients to see that the way they make decisions affects everything in their life. So really just kind of basically kind of tapping into their identity. If you make a fast decision, that's how leaders and winners kind of go about it. So you need to make a quick decision yourself so that you can really just create that momentum in your life and step into a new identity. Can you send me more information? Okay, so they most of the times don't need more info. It's just a smokescreen. So what I usually say is, to be honest, there really isn't more information to share. We went over the entire program and all the benefits. So there's something in particular that you're looking for, so remind them of what we went over during discovery. I need to do more research. So in this case, tell them that it's okay, but ask them if it's a matter of just trusting you or your company, because this means that they weren't 100%. Okay, so this is typically like a big trust problem if they need to do more research. So here's a quick answer that I usually give them right here. I don't have the time to implement this, so this is something that you should have addressed during your pitch about how much easier and how much less time that they have to dedicate to actually get results in your program. That's why they're working with you. They don't have to spend all the time doing the research, all the trial and error, wasting money, wasting time, okay? Time is likely not the issue, but they may feel overwhelmed with the time commitment, okay? So here you're gonna explain that actually it's built for people that want speed, because you're gonna help them understand the most important factors without doing research. You're gonna avoid making mistakes. You're gonna get to the desired outcome so much faster. I tried something similar and it didn't work. You should have already asked about this and addressed it during the discovery. And if you didn't, here's a quick little answer right here. I want to speak to one of your clients first. So this is usually a big trust factor as well. So I do not give them access to the clients. Not only is that disrespectful of their time, but you lose frame as a leader. Most of the time, these are tire kickers anyways. So these are going to be difficult with clients regardless. If you haven't built that know, like, and trust through your funnel, through your warm-up sequence, and during the call, just building rapport and understanding them just overall, and they still have a lot of questions, this is going to be a problem with probably about you. I want to speak to your clients first, and ideally you already have testimonials, case studies, results, or even just talking about your experience and how you present the offer. They should have confidence on what you do anyways, but if this is the case, then I simply don't really allow it. I don't want to bother my clients with every single prospect that hops on the call, right? So here's the answer for that. I'm nervous about this, so this is more of a limiting belief about themselves. If they're maybe young in business or just getting started, or they've ever actually gone and bought a high-ticket program before, then we can try to just really help them see that they're stepping into a new identity. We can't keep doing the same things, because if we do the same things, we'll get the same outcomes. Right now, they're trying to do something entirely different in their life, so we have to help them see that. Do they need one more push? So here, your prospect may be ready to join, but they need an additional nudge to cross the finish line. So this is where you smoothly lead them and slow them down and ask genuinely. So in some cases, you have to ask for the sale a couple times. If you ask for the sale and it's not an immediate yes, it doesn't mean you've actually lost the sale. It just means you might have to really address some things, ask again, talk about something else, ask again, okay? Sometimes it just takes a couple of different times here to finally get that final yes, okay? Mitigating risk. So if they need this, you can lean on a risk-free guarantee. So for example, we help our clients get $50K minimum funding, or we keep working for free. In the worst case scenario, they will have better credit, a business built out with a low risk entity, a better idea of business funding, and a guaranteed outcome, because now you're going to keep working with them for free. So if they're really concerned about, not getting the result, you can simply say that I'm going to keep working with you until we get there. So we're going to fix your credit. We're going to make sure you have a bankable entity. I'm going to teach you so much about credit and funding. And although it might take a little bit longer, you know that us keep working together, we will get there, because I'm not going to stop until we do. All right. Typically, it's more of a beginner thing. Okay. So if you haven't built up that trust, if you haven't personalized a pitch, and you haven't really built that confidence in your prospect, that's when you typically need to use guarantees. But otherwise, in most cases, you probably don't even need one. Payment plans. So they can be very helpful to close a deal, but understand that there is risk in not receiving the payments. Okay, I have a different video on my YouTube explaining what to do if you don't actually get the payments involved from your clients. But in some cases, they will ghost you and back out. Okay, it's just part of business. You can expect to have people just drop off payment plans. It just kind of happens, unfortunately. But that's the inherent risk. But they're very, very powerful, however. I tend to use them in a lot of cases just because I want to basically get the ball rolling. If the client can't afford the entire program, we can at least do a deposit. If they can't do the entire payment, we can do some kind of a payment plan, right? There's a lot of different ways to get the ball rolling. Once they commit financially, now they're still getting started versus not actually starting at all. So now we can make sure that we deliver an incredible program so they want to pay us the remaining amount. So if we choose to go the payment route, do not offer them a specific payment plan first. We want to understand their situation. I like to ask them, what are you able to start with? Okay. With this in mind, you should ask them what they're able to do. You will find some solutions where they're happy and able to give you more in the amount. And in a lot of cases, they'll feel grateful that you were able to work with them to find a solution to get started. Okay. If money is a huge roadblock for them, just offer them the free course. Let them know they'll be happy to work with you in the future when they're ready. Okay. So if they really just can't do it, again, some clients we just can't help. They have bad credit, bad finances, no savings, no limits available on their credit card. Like there's just nothing we can really do. So in some cases, we can't work with everybody. So it's just the truth of the matter. Do you offer payment plans? So this is the questions you might get. So typically, I will say this. Good question. Typically, I take the full payment amount up front, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. Can you walk me through your current financial situation? So typically what I'll do is I'll actually say I take the full payment up front, and then I'll pause, okay? And then say I just really can't do it. And then I'll say, okay, well, in some cases I understand it might not make sense for someone based on their finances. So could you tell me more about where you're at right now and what would you be able to start with today? So then they'll tell you, okay, I can actually maybe break it down to 3 payments. Okay, great. Like you might have been doing or been ready to do 4, but now you're collecting even more cash, right? But if they don't have enough money to make a reasonable down payment, offer them the free course. They stay in your ecosphere. They stay in your pipeline. Consider a down sell as a down payment for your product and help them understand that. So basically any kind of payment plan is really going to be helpful for them, and they'll feel grateful for the opportunity to work with you if you can basically get flexibility. But that's the overall way here to overcome objections, how to run the sales call, and I will just talk about a couple of different habits and important things to become an effective A player, an effective salesperson, an effective business leader. So go to bed and wake up the same time every day, okay? Your circadian rhythm and your energy is very, very important. Track yourself, okay? Track your sleep, your fitness, your recovery. What gets tracked gets optimized. Get some good headphones, okay? Good quality audio makes you more professional. Drink a lot more water. Most people are dehydrated, and it really affects your energy, and it actually affects your brain power as well. Break a sweat daily. And so you want to transfer energy on sales calls. So you need to possess the energy. You need to have that enthusiasm for what you do, and you can't be showing up powerfully if you're super overweight, low energy, got a bunch of Cheeto dust in your belly button, right? You got to get a pair of blue light blockers. Are very helpful if you tend to work late. It'll help with your circadian rhythm. And you want to reduce decision fatigue in the morning by making your morning routine very simple, consistent, and the same every day. Okay, but overall, we're going to wake up on time. We're going to go through our morning routine. We're going to confirm all the appointments for the day, take the calls, record our notes, and follow up with old leads. All right, and that's going to make us much more effective and allow us to crush these sales calls. So that's the entire sales mastery training. So we went over the sales fundamentals, the fact that we're not actually selling credit or funding, we're selling a transformation and what it will allow them to do. We went over how to conduct the sales call. So from the rapport building, setting the frame, going through discovery, pitching our offer, presenting the price, and finally the objections to go with it. And then we went over some extra habits and tips that you can follow to become even more effective and even more of a leader when you conduct your business. So hopefully this was very helpful for you. I really would recommend just taking some notes as you go through the video and using this whenever you start to go through a slump inside of your sales. But overall, if you do want additional help with improving your sales, you want me and my team to actually go through some of your sales calls and give you some feedback as to what you're doing well and maybe not so great. Or if you want some help building up your sales team so that you start to step out of the sales for your credit coaching business and you just start to focus on actually making some money, well, we actually do that inside of Credit Coach Academy. So we're going to help you with your sales process. We'll help you build up your team. We'll help you increase the confidence in your offer by having a better program. So if you're interested in working with us, you can click on the link down below to learn more about my Credit Coach Academy. We'll walk you through the entire program. But otherwise, I hope this video was very helpful for you and you learned something. You'll be able to increase the amount of conversions that you do on your sales calls and hopefully close a lot more deals. So if you get some great success here from this video, please comment down below. I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next training.